Hey everyone, welcome back. So this video is the Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare, and we'll be looking at their relationship specifically in this video. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave it in the comment section below, or you can follow me on my social media, which is on the screen, and you can send me questions privately and I will answer them as soon as I get them or as soon as I can. So let's get started. So a bit of context for this. So it was during the Elizabethan era, so during the reign of Elizabeth I, that Romeo and Juliet was first performed. Shakespeare set his plays in foreign countries to be able to make the story seem more far-fetched, because obviously the English thought of themselves as above the other foreigners. So setting it in a different country would make them feel superior to the things that were happening on the stage. So Italians were seen as hot-headed and extremely focused on love and romance, which is why this specific play is set in Verona, Italy. Furthermore, Italy was a Catholic country, so suicide was a sin, a great sin, and would have been shocking to the audience to show how much they loved each other. Things to remember. So, what everyone needs to remember is that Romeo and Juliet is a cautionary tale. It's not a story of romance. Shakespeare was trying to highlight what would happen if you disobeyed your parents and tried to go against their wishes. Even by Elizabethan standards, the story is considered far-fetched and ridiculous. Because you have to remember, they were children and their actions were immature and crazy. In the play, Juliet is only 13 years old. So everything in this play is to stop people from copying what is happening on the stage, and it was not seen as a romance at the time it was written and performed. In later modern times, people now see Romeo and Juliet as a romantic tragedy, when in fact Shakespeare wanted it to be just a tragedy. So the timeline of love. This is the timeline of when Romeo and Juliet met and when everything happened within the play. Obviously, this is going to be a very brief timeline to highlight how short their relationship actually was. So, they meet on Sunday at the masquerade ball, marry on Monday secretly. Romeo is banished on Tuesday after he kills Tybalt. Juliet has her suicide on Wednesday, and they are both dead by Thursday or Thursday night. So they actually only knew each other for 5 days, and in fact married only 24 hours after meeting, secretly. Emphasis on the secretly because it comes in later on. So prologue and foreshadowing. So what is a prologue? A prologue is a separate introduction found in literature. In some copies of the play, it will also be called the chorus. So this is a very important piece that most people tend to know and are pretty familiar with, but it's extremely important in letting us know what is going to happen in the rest of the text. So Shakespeare likes to hint at things in a lot of his plays, but in Romeo and Juliet, he literally gives the story away in the prologue. One of the better quotes to remember is, "From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, two star-crossed lovers take their lives." So there's double meaning to take their lives. One meaning is that they are born, because the previous line was talking about the two houses of Verona. And the other meaning is that they will kill themselves, so they will take their lives. So that is another example of foreshadowing. We know before the play has even begun, due to the prologue and the chorus, that they are not going to survive the end of this play. So love at first sight. So the first conversation between Romeo and Juliet is a sonnet. Sonnet, especially the Shakespearean sonnet, was a traditional form used in poetry to express love. There's 4 main characteristics of a sonnet. So it has 14 lines, alternating rhyme scheme, so A, B, as some people know it as. It ends in a rhyming couplet, and it has iambic pentameter. So iambic pentameter is 5 stressed and 5 unstressed beats per line, or if you want to keep it simple, 10 beats per line. But the reason it's very important is because with these 4 characteristics, you will know it's a sonnet, And again, a sonnet was used to show and express love. And a quote from their first meeting is, "For saints have hands that pilgrims' hands do touch, and palm to palm in holy palmers kiss." So not only do they use a sonnet for their very first conversation, there's a lot of religious imagery used in the actual speech. It's very important to remember the religious aspect of it, because as said in the context, Italy was a Catholic country, so everything they did was governed by the church, and they would have been raised extremely religiously, and a lot of the influence of what happens to them is influenced and kind of corrupted a little bit by the friar. The friar's influence I wouldn't exactly class as positive in this play. So you're in danger. So Act 2 is the act that is filled with young love and impetuous behavior. Impetuous means reckless. If Romeo is caught in the Capulet's garden, it may cause his death and reignite the feud. So if you remember from Act 1, Scene 1, when the servants are fighting in the streets, the prince of the city has already said, if anyone else fights, then they shall be killed. So Juliet is trying to avoid this and does not want Romeo to be killed. In fact, she even says, if they do see thee, they will murder thee. So she is well aware of the fact that he is being very reckless by coming into the Capulet garden as a Montague. Although he's already been to the ball and was seen there, he's now risking his life by coming back. So, after meeting in the garden, Romeo contacts the friar and arranges their marriage. So this is less than 24 hours later. In fact, the marriage is helped along by both the friar and the nurse. It's the nurse who says to Juliet, "Then hie you hence to Friar Lawrence's cell. There stays a husband to make you a wife." These two adults, who have both been considered as parental figures for Romeo and Juliet, the friar for Romeo and the nurse for Juliet, are aiding and abetting their rather childish behavior and allowing them to get married after knowing each other for less than a day and against their parents' wishes. As the adults in the relationship, they should be a bit more circumspect and serious and not encourage this sort of behavior, because they know that anything negative that happens will happen to the children. So I personally think the friar and the nurse are very negligent in their duties, and I don't approve of them allowing them to do this. So romantic love versus courtly love. So courtly love was a way of wooing a lady in medieval times. So they were worshipped from afar. The man wrote poetry and songs about their beauty and perfection. Romantic love is more passionate, real, and with the person in front of you. These were the two types of love portrayed in the play. For courtly love, it was how Romeo behaved towards Rosaline, and for romantic love, it was how he behaved towards Juliet. So courtly love, before he meets Juliet, Romeo was in love with Rosaline, another girl. This is in the start of Act 1. The language used to describe his love for Rosaline is negative and glum. There are times when he says, "I live dead," or "Oh, love and hate," which is an oxymoron. It's extremely rare to describe your love for someone in these negative terms, and Shakespeare does this on purpose to show that he was not as serious as Rosaline as he is supposed to be with Juliet. Romantic love. However, his love for Juliet makes him happy and excited, so he uses images of brightness to show how happy he is to be with her. Whiter than snow on a raven's back. This is obviously to contrast with the negative and glum ways of describing his love to Rosaline, to show how much he cares about Juliet. Love and grief. So Juliet is put in a difficult position after Romeo kills Tybalt. She can't decide if she should be loyal to her husband of one day or her family. Romeo's hand shed Tybalt's blood. Understandably, at this point, she can't decide who to choose, and with any situation like this, it's pretty you can be pretty sympathetic towards her in this case. She described Romeo with several oxymorons to show her indecisiveness, so she called him beautiful tyrant and fiend angelical. However, she finally does decide to be loyal to her husband and stand by Romeo because Tybalt would have slain him and he was just protecting himself. This is again to highlight that her feelings for Romeo are extremely romantic and she's very much in love with him. So, summary. Throughout the play, there are times when Romeo and Juliet are hyperbolic about their emotions and feelings. This is supposed to show you how young and immature they are. Again, like I said, Juliet is 13, Romeo is supposed to be in his late teens. Although there are times their relationship is romantic, it is, at its core, a cautionary tale. Even if their relationship is short, they are shown as loving, forgiving, and loyal due to all the things that have happened to them. Shakespeare is not trying to minimize the feelings he has them portray, but what he is trying to show is that when you go against your parents or your family, then it will not have positive outcomes. He was trying to guide the people of the time, especially the young people, as he was afraid, I guess, that they would go against their parents and not have a happy ending. So was this video useful? So follow me on my social media and I can give you quotes that I've been posting up as well as answer any questions. Share, like and subscribe, and again, leave a comment for any questions or requests. I do realise this video was a bit sarcastic. I find Romeo and Juliet rather hard to do as a play, but it does have its highlights. And I will see you again next time.